Hi, everyone. Welcome to this lunch session on all things film, TV, and inclusivity. I'm Isabel. I'm the founder of Ally Networking, which is a career platform for the creative industries. We have a newsletter. We share opportunities weekly on our Instagram. We do mentoring schemes, and our whole goal is to sort of stop any gatekeeping in the creative industries and make the access to it a lot easier for everyone. We believe in networking for good. And we also believe that that starts with clear conversations about journeys in the industry, meeting different people, doing different things, because there's no such thing as a linear path to it all. And we've been getting a lot of interest in the film and TV sector. We've created this free guide on all things film and TV, which I'll post on the chat. So today, we're really excited to have Sarah Leigh with us. She is a neurodivergent working class filmmaker and the founder of INCLUSIVITY Films, which is a company dedicated to ensuring that at least 50% of the cast and crew on every production identifies as deaf, disabled, and or neurodivergent. She has done tons of incredible things in terms of directing, writing, and I think this will be a really nice chat to hear about her journey and also how we can make this sector more inclusive and how you can navigate it. So this will be recorded. If you do have a question, please put it in the chat because this is a really informal Q&A. Sarah will introduce her journey a bit more after I stop all this blabbing, and she'll tell us a bit more about her journey and founding the company. And then it's going to be just quick fire questions. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you can and you want. So with that, Sarah, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Would you mind sharing, I mean, I give a bit of an intro, but would you mind sharing a little bit maybe how you got started in this sector in like film and TV?
Yeah, of course. It's interesting you said it's not linear because it definitely isn't. And I've come into it through all different ways. So I think I've always written since I could write, since being a child. So I'd always wanted to write stuff, but that came in all different forms. And from the age of about 14, I thought journalism was going to be my career. So I did quite a broad undergraduate degree in American studies, and then I did a master's in TV journalism. Straight off the back of that, got a job, which was great. So I worked at Sky News and 5 News for a couple of years, and I realized it really wasn't the environment for me. I quite liked being neurodivergent, ADHD, autistic, and having those hourly deadlines was quite nice. But I just struggled with, the environment wasn't quite right for me. So I gave it all up to be an actor. And I was an actor for 15 years. I don't really do it anymore. I have a very blink and you'll miss me, very small part in the current season of Grace on ITV. Very, very small part. But my focus now is behind the camera. So for me, I just started to write even more during the pandemic, as many people did, being in lockdown. And my focus was really on telling stories of social impact. Because as an actor, I felt I didn't always get this. I think as an actor, you can only do what people give you and the words they give you and the stories. And I could, I've done many different things and it always had to align right with me, but it wasn't necessarily stories I wanted to be telling. I was always very good at playing someone's girlfriend, pretty much. So I just wanted more female-centered stories, but stories that had representation of disability on and off screen. For me, I felt that my access needs weren't always being met either. So aside from the creative stuff, I really saw that there was a gap for talent on and off screen who identifies deaf, disabled and or neurodivergent. So in 2020, I co-founded a talent agency with Diane Jansen, and that's still running. It's called Inclusive Talent, and that is for deaf, disabled, neurodivergent actors, so on-screen talent. But then I was seeing there really wasn't, and people were approaching us for off-screen, and there really wasn't as many opportunities, or people weren't and what we come across with actors as well, they don't always want to meet the access needs. And it's so surprising. You think that, you know, all this stuff would be given and done, but it really isn't. So as much as we're putting people forward for work and it's like a business, it very much is an advocacy role as well. So with Inclusivity Films, which I launched in 2022 with the help of Creative UK, I was able to use it as a vehicle to make films that I wanted to make, but also a way to bring on disabled talent in all different roles, from HOD to entry level. We always offer work experience. I always have a director shadow me because I feel that those entry level getting into the industry is really difficult. I'll tell you this, like the way that I got my first job, which started at Sky News, is I applied for work experience. And my name was the same as the maiden name of the person who was in charge of getting people on for work experience. So my CV jumped out because we had the same name, and that was it. And, you know, getting there, lots of people, their parents worked there, and I never had that connection. So I was just lucky that my name was what it was at that point. So I've managed to stay in, but yeah, sorry, I go off on so many tangents with my brain, so you'll have to forgive me if I do repeat myself or start talking about other things. But I think that's probably it in a bit of a nutshell.
That's fine. Thank you so much, Sarah. This was really, really helpful. So I'll wait if anyone wants to send a question or unmute themselves, just raise your hands. But I'll start with the questions that I've compiled from people that registered but couldn't come live. So I think that we had quite a few questions on what are some ways to get started in film and TV. And I think an addendum to that was, do you have to work for free? And if you have any insights into that.
It's that real chicken and egg thing, isn't it? The working for free. As an actor, I worked quite a few times for free to build up a show reel, which would then hopefully get me more work. But there's only so many times you can do that. And, you know, I've been a parent since my whole adulthood, I've been a parent, I've been a mum. So I had a kid young and my eldest son. So I've always had to juggle that as well. Like, is it going to be worth it for me? So I think, how do you get started? I think this is great, like the networking side of things, and it is something that you need to do, but it can be quite difficult at times. That's why I love that you do the structured networking. I think joining organizations where you can, if you identify as female or as a woman, there's Women in Film and Television. I think they are fantastic for offering opportunities and insights. Screen Skills, they do a lot of entry level talks, and they have videos on there from all different roles, so you can see what works for you and what type of role you might be interested in, because there are hundreds within TV and film. So I think they're good places to reach out to. It helps to have some kind of training, although I've never trained in directing. I think it naturally evolved from acting. But if there are classes that you can take, and I know like NFTS do 1 or 2 day courses, and they offer bursaries as well. I did a 2-day course actually with them on visually expressive directing, and I got that actually funded through Screen Skills. So there are ways to do it in that way, but there is no direct entry, a lot of it. And I think you put this in the pack that you had, that people recruit through their own networks, and it is a bit of who you know. And it is very frustrating. Like I said, when I worked in TV news, there are a lot of people's children that worked there because they had that step in. So I like what you're trying to do and like remove those barriers. And something that we're doing is making sure that access needs are met, and it's not an afterthought. It's there from the very beginning, and we're asking people as soon as they like reach out and they want to have a meeting with us, even to make sure that Zoom is accessible or whatever it might be. So I don't think there is a direct route in, but there are ways. And reach out to people whose work you admire, because you never know if they're going to reply, and they may just have something for you to come along to and shadow.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sarah. And we'll make a note of all the resources you've mentioned. And for everyone here, I think something that's always good to do is, if you are in any online webinar, just introduce yourself to everyone else in the chat. Connect with one another. You never know where those connections might be. You may at least have people going through the same field as you, and it's always nice to have support. All right, so Olive asks, do you have any advice on how to approach industry professionals to ask to get involved with their work?
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, goes a bit to what you were saying at the end, right? Of like reaching out to people.
Yeah. I've always, my biggest motto or philosophy in life is if you don't ask, you don't get. And sometimes you're not going to get the response you want sometimes, and that's fine. You move on and you go somewhere else. But I think it doesn't hurt to ask. I think keep it concise. As an agent, we have a lot of emails from actors seeking representation. It's probably the most emails that I get is around that in any of my work. And it's the ones that are concise and perhaps, you know, they're sharing something with us. I wouldn't share scripts with people, because I think that's a big no-no if you're like sending unsolicited scripts, because they generally want that via an agent or production company. But it doesn't hurt to email and just introduce yourself. This is what I'm doing. This is, and what it is that you would like help with. So is there an opportunity for me to come and shadow you for a couple of hours? You know, you're not, that doesn't cost anyone anything. And it is just that opportunity to get on a set and see how that works. So yeah, I think keeping it concise, to the point, and saying exactly what it is that you want, and being friendly and doing the research, find out the person's name, because we quite often get dear agent or dear agency, and you can see it's been copied and pasted. Sometimes we'll have a lot of other agents CC'd in as well, so we can see that it's gone out to hundreds of people. So just, yeah, really do the research about who it is that you're contacting.
Thank you so much, Sarah. On the whole networking thing, someone asks, how do you start networking while you're juggling diagnosed and crippling anxiety? Any tips on that? We could tag team on that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you say as well. And I think, but I find in-person networking very hard because I have auditory processing needs. So I love the idea of it and I love going, but so many times I've had to leave because the noise level, particularly around speed networking, where everyone starts talking at the same time once the little bell goes, and it's like speed dating but networking, and you move around every 5 to 10 minutes. And I just then find it very hard to be able to hear the person that's speaking. I wear something called loop earplugs as well, which are supposed to drown out background noise, but it's still, you can, when it's that noisy, it doesn't. So tips, I think if you can pair up with someone you know that's going, that I do have a friend that quite often I go to these things with, and she knows that, you know, if I've left or I've stepped outside, she knows why. And I think just having someone there, and she's that person who can go up to others and just say, hi, I'm, you know, and then just start talking, and then it breaks the ice, and that definitely helps. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Whoops. Yeah, I think that's why I guess online networking can be so good as well, because you can reach out to people. And I definitely love the idea of meeting someone, you know, and coming with someone. But on that note, Sarah, as a neurodivergent person, what was your process in working out what accommodations you need to support your access needs? And how do you approach stating those needs?
That's a very good question. I didn't always know what my access needs were. As looking back now, I can definitely see, oh, I should have asked for this. This is what I needed. Now I'm very good at knowing, and it's come a bit with age. My son is disabled and has high support needs, and it's come through seeing him, you know, how inaccessible the world is for him, that it's made me realize that actually it's inaccessible for me as well. So now I'm very much to the point around my access needs. I will say, I won't even say, oh, is it okay if I have this? Is it okay if you do this for me? I'll just say, oh, I'm going to need a quiet room if I come, and actually stating this is what I need, rather than leaving it open for them to say, no, you can't have that, which does happen. But I also, on the other side of that, totally understand when people don't want to disclose things, because I have seen it happen with people where they have lost jobs because they've stated what their access needs are. So there is discrimination still within the industry. So I do understand that it's very difficult sometimes to bring up, but I think it is finding and connecting with other advocates and just being honest about it. So part of, I don't know if we're going to get on to talking about the company a bit more later, but a big part of what we do is access riders, and they go out to everyone regardless of how they identify. So, but we don't send them out until someone comes on board, because I've seen it happen where a casting decision, they've come to us and they want to make it between our actor and someone else, but not until they know what those access costs are going to be. You can't make a decision based on what someone needs. So we obviously did not give that information over. So I'm very conscious when we're onboarding crew and cast, we wait until they're on board and then we're opening it up. And it also isn't something they have to answer. If they want to answer it, then great. And we'll make sure that everything we're doing is in place to make it accessible for them. But it also isn't something that anyone has to disclose. So yeah, it's a double-edged thing where I'm very, being older and just more confident, I guess, in this line of work, I will say this is what I need. And I think people expect it from me now as well because of what I do. But I get that if you're earlier on in your career, it is hard. And yeah, but reach out to me. I'm happy, and I'll share my email at the end, because I'm more than happy to help around things like this. So I know how important it is.
Thank you. Okay, we have a question from Maisie. She asks, do you have any advice for an aspiring actress to get noticed in the industry?
Yeah, I don't know how aspiring you are, Maisie, how far along you are in your journey, but I think it's definitely, there's so many ways. Again, networking comes a bit into it. You definitely, when actors apply to us, if they come to us and they don't have any show reel material or anything filmed at all, it's very hard to be able to take actors on, because we need to be able to see that they can act. So if you currently aren't, getting any work, whether it's theatre or film, you can record stuff on your phone. And that, it's how we do self-tapes now. It's all on the phone. So even just recording a monologue and that practicing and working on your craft in that way. I'm very much an advocate for keeping things cheap and not paying for everything, because there are so many people out there who are going to want your money and want to you pay lots of money for show reels and things, but there's stuff that you can do at home yourself where you don't need to do that. So I think again, organizations like Women in Film and Television are brilliant, and they do a lot of networking things. They do table reads that they recruit members to do that, and on Zoom, and they get to act in that way. There are cheaper classes, I know City Lit do acting classes if you aren't thinking of the drama school route. But if you're past that and you're done with your training, or you're doing ongoing stuff and you're wanting work, I think, Spotlight is the number one. You really do need to be on Spotlight. They have changed, which is a casting platform. All the big jobs go on there. They have changed the criteria for joining. It used to be quite strict, but it's more open now. And if an actor identifies as deaf, disabled, or neurodivergent, they get a 50% discount as well, because it is a paid for service. But any serious actor, I think, needs to be on it. They have the monopoly on casting currently. I hope that answers it. There's lots of things in there.
I think that was good. So we now have, Maisie says she's 17, does drama and theater A level.
Okay, cool. So looking onto those.
Yeah.
Right. So the next steps would be, do you want to continue on with your education, as in drama school? I would try and choose drama school over a degree course, but degree courses are good as well in universities. The drama schools tend to have more contacts with industry. That's why I say that, but it's not the be all and end all. You don't even need to go on to do that. I think it's just about, working on your craft in whatever way that is, and creating video footage as well.
Amazing. And yeah, she also mentioned she's been working on some student things that I think actually started my career in the creative industries in film as a runner
Okay.
and helping student films because I was in university doing something else and they needed people to, carry stuff around and make coffee for a lot of people, which I was very good at doing because I was 17 and didn't have that many skills. And that's how I started learning. And then people start calling you. And then once those people get one or other gig, and then they're like, oh, do you want to be a runner on this side or this? And that really helped to navigate the whole thing and figuring things out. And I said yes to a lot of random things, but yeah.
Well, that's it. Student films are fantastic. And
Yeah.
as actors as well, I did a lot as an actor, just building up that show reel footage you can get from student films. And they tend to have the best equipment as well. They have really good equipment at universities. So yeah, and it is that word of mouth. And then someone else will be like, oh, I saw her in this and we want to use you for this. And
Yeah. So now Grace wanted to unmute herself and ask the question directly.
oh
So
yeah.
Grace, just so you know, you'll be recorded and this will be shared, but feel free to ask us your question directly.
Hi, nice to meet you. I just wanted to say thank you for doing this because I wasn't even sure if this was like right for me because basically I just graduated but with a psychology degree and on my study abroad I actually got the chance to do 50% like film studies for intro to filmmaking and I had a very big realization that maybe I'd done the wrong degree. So I guess my question is kind of like for someone like me who has a very different background, like how I can get in the industry. And as you said, like I've done some student films as well, like acting, but they don't really talk about these sort of careers on like career school day, as you can imagine. The creative industry is just like very hidden. So I'm just trying to figure out what kind of jobs there are and stuff.
Is it acting or behind the camera that you're looking at?
Honestly, I'm literally open to anything, like being a runner, just to get myself like on a set and see if that's for me. Because I've done it on a small scale, obviously student films, but yeah, basically.
Yeah. Well, psychology is a great degree to have as an actor for sure. And I've got actually a couple of actor friends who did do psychology as their first degree. So that's, yeah. So don't think that you did the wrong thing because that everything feeds in. I did American politics and history, so that's got nothing to do with film. So there are, I think, a really good contact for anyone, actually. If you're looking at entry level, is wherever you live locally, there'll be a film office. For me, I'm in Hertfordshire, so it's the Hertfordshire Film Office, but London has Film London, and then all counties have their own film offices. And I know Hertfordshire are really good at this. They're looking to get people into the industry and working with entry level talent, whatever that might be. And so there's a course that they run alongside Allspring Media, and it's to do with getting into assistant directing. And so I definitely reach out to film offices because they can point you in the right direction. They also have databases which you could join as a runner, as any kind, whatever role you're in. And then when films come to shoot in that area, they'll look and see who does what. So that's a good way. I think running, like what Isabel was saying, is a great way to get in and experience what being on set is like and what the different roles are and see, oh, actually, this is what I might like to be doing. So I think it is just looking into it. You don't necessarily need to go and do training, but it's worth looking at the different short courses and things. And again, I'd say Screen Skills is a good first port of call because they have lots of different videos about all the different roles in film and people speaking about their role and what they do and finding what fits and then trying to see if you can shadow someone. I think like just finding people. I follow so many, if you would go on my Instagram and who I follow, there's people from all different roles. And, I think most people, again, would be open to that shadowing and that step in. Acting wise, again, like Isabel saying, the student films, I think, is a great way in, and what we discussed before with Maisie's question. But yeah, I think that's probably, I would say, the best. There's other platforms like Mandy.com where they do paid and unpaid crew and cast roles. They do both. So it's worth that. And also, if you've already helped out with student films, you have that experience that, you know, when you were doing your exchange, was it you said?
Yeah, my study abroad.
Oh, okay, cool. I did the same. I studied abroad and I
Oh, did
got
you?
involved with student films too, yeah, as an actor. And that was a bit of a taste for it. I was like, okay, I need to do this more. So that's a great way. So you already have some credits that you can use there. And, you know, it all helps to say, you know, you've been on a set, you've got a bit of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Go, Grace.
I was worried that other people in the film industry wouldn't credit student films, but yeah, that's great. Thank you.
There is like a slight snobbery from some people around it, but you've done the role and it's not necessarily, you know, as an actor, sometimes I wouldn't put that it was student. I would just put the name of the director and the role and the film name. But now it's just like, I think people are a lot more, they know that this is what actors have to do and filmmakers have to do to start with. So I think it's better than it was like 20 years ago for sure.
Yeah, and I would say for everyone who's here, like I've seen that on the chat, people are connecting. I definitely encourage you all to chat, to connect. There's a lot of power. Like if you've done one short film with 5 people, to reach out to those people and say, I'm looking to shadow more people in this area or this era, if you hear of anything, or if you know, because people will hear, and so you already have a network to draw on, if it looks small. But if you don't, as Sarah was saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. So if you just craft a really nice message and the ask is not that big, you know, like shadowing someone or anything like that, and it's something that you're able to do, then I think you have more chances. And in general, we had this interview with Sam in the music industry, and he was saying how to get in, to think about all the ways to get in. You know, maybe you think you want to be, you know, in production, but then there's like lots of roles in social media and marketing, and maybe you start there and you're going to learn a lot of skills, and you can, you know, start navigating, and vice versa, in even in publishing. So there, you know, especially at the beginning, there's a bit more room, I think, to play as well and learn things from inside, because once you're inside a company or a structure or a production, you end up seeing what everyone else is doing. Like I started thinking I wanted to be an art director, and I was horrible at it, and I got really annoyed at the production because I thought they were not doing things properly, and I started producing things instead of doing the art direction, you know. So I was like, maybe this is better for me. It's not as suited for this other thing. So I don't know. That's my experience. So take it with a grain of salt.
I like that a lot because it is from being in-house, you then get to see how it all works. I think film festival, I love a film festival. And even as an actor, I would go to them, even if I wasn't a part of a project that was there, because I just like you get to meet so many different people and it's all about film. You get to watch film all day and you get to then chat to people in film. So I do recommend, like, there are festivals all over the UK in all different regions. And they often have like industry days, the festivals. So it'll be people from the industry coming, sort of like this, you know, coming to talk, and it's a panel, and, you know, you can ask questions and then things like that. So, you know, for example, if you were to write to me, you could say, oh, you've got the hook in. Oh, I saw you at the I Like Networking talk, or I heard you, you know, and it's, once you see someone at a panel, it could be like, oh, I saw you and you said this, or whatever it might be. And it's like, oh, okay. So there's like, you've got a slight connection, even though it might not feel like it, you now are aware of that person. And yeah, so that's a good way in.
Yeah, I agree. Now we have Kia who wanted to ask a question. So Kia, I think you can unmute yourself. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
Hi, wait, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Sarah, for sharing your story. It was really inspiring for me. And similar to, I think, Grace, I'm also a recent graduate and my degree was super unrelated. I did it in geography, but managed to get some opportunities to make some like short documentaries. What I really loved is when you talked about saying you wanted to kind of create your own stories and you be the one who decides what story you want to tell. So I feel I relate because I want to write my own stories in film related to race and inclusivity. But how would you say you dealt with like imposter syndrome, or even thinking, is this worth telling or filming? Like, who's going to watch it? So how did you deal with that?
That's a great question. I still deal with it. It's ongoing, and I was part of a scheme with women in film and television. They do a mentoring scheme, so I got a mentor within the industry, and a huge focus for them was around imposter syndrome and how to deal with it. And it's one of those things, sorry for any men in the room possibly, but you know, men apply for jobs and they could meet like 50% of what a job is asking for. A woman would have to feel like she's got to meet every single one before she applies. So I think it is that just like, actually, I'm just going to go. I know I like what I've written. I'm happy with this. If no one likes it, then I'll move on. But it's just throwing stuff out there. And I think there are so many competitions, like script competitions as a writer. I can share some of like the places where I look for those, because if that's helpful. But that is a good way to gauge, because you've got people outside of who you know who are in the industry reading your script, and then they're giving their views on it. Sometimes it's not very nice and it can feel a bit hurtful. But it's but it is about taking what works for you. They may not be right. I've had feedback before which has said that I haven't put enough nice men in my script. So that kind of feedback I'll ignore. But sometimes there's really good structural feedback in there. And like, oh, actually, that doesn't quite make sense. So, oh yeah, I'll go and rewrite that and work it. So another thing, as you were speaking, what came to my mind was that quite often I'll see something and I think, oh, maybe mine's too similar to this, but no one is going to write your story the way that you write it. You're going to write it from a different perspective to anyone else, even if the themes and the subject matter are the same. I think you've just got to look that this is Prince Andrew like drama out at the moment. There was one out in the summer about the exact same interview, and it's like, but it's different because it will be, because someone else has made that. So I think it's just owning what you want to do. And I love that, you're a lot younger than me. It's taken me a long time to realize that I could just do it and go for it. So I think and write my stories. So yeah, I hope that helps. But yeah, just go for it and stick with it, and know that there will be someone out there who identifies with it and wants to help you on that journey.
Thank you, Sarah. We have
I say about I didn't mention, sorry, the writing places that I would go to for like competitions. Is that okay? So there's one called Coverfly, which is a really good place to put scripts on. And there's the Writers Guild of Great Britain. There's the Writers Guild America. They post out opportunities as well. And Film Freeway, which is a film festival website, is like the main one. They do script competitions, and they do them from micro shorts, like 1 minute, so 1 page of script. So you could have something very short you enter, and up to like feature film scripts, so full-length films. And some of them you have to pay to enter, some are free. So it's worth just looking and seeing what fits. But it's quite nice because that can often then get attention of producers, because you get entered into a competition. If it does well or it gets selected, then that can help to get your project made.
Thanks, Sarah. We had another question around access, if you don't mind. Let me just scroll and find it. 1 sec. Okay. Should I let those in charge of hiring know of my access needs when just getting started, considering the potential disapproval that might get me?
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying before. It's like a real tricky thing, because, as I said, I know people that have not gotten the job because of access needs. I just want to be completely not a thing anymore, but it does happen. So I get the hesitation around it. I think if you're going to need some adjustments or something for the interview, then personally I would do it then, let them know. But I don't know, you want to believe that people are nice and they're not going to discriminate, but they do. It's a really hard question to answer. And as I said, I'm very much, I'll say what it is. And I do think that I've had like people not come back to me after I know I have, not after I've declared access needs. But then I just think, actually, I wouldn't want to work for you anyway if you're not going to provide that for me. So personally, I will always put it, but I get why people hold back until contract stage as well, and then say, this is what I need. But I think doing it early on does help gauge whether these are people you want to be working with. But I guess it's a tricky one to answer because it is different for everybody.
No, we had a really nice question as well on how did you sort of, well, the question is in two parts, so you can choose how to answer. One was like, when did you start, how did you get the courage to start your new company or your company, and how did you go about structuring it? I guess this is all I have from the question. So I'm assuming, yeah, it's about the strategy and what you needed to do. And, I think the courage is more like, when was the right time?
It was a very ADHD moment in that I woke up one morning and I thought, I've got to do this. This is like, and I actually had seen an application for Creative UK. We're going to support emerging production companies. And I was like, I could do this. I could be that emerging production company. I've got this idea. And it was literally that day. I was like, right, this is meant to be. It's come to me. I'm very much about the universe and manifesting. And I think I did manifest it. And yeah, that was it for me. I knew that I had to do, and I was just getting so frustrated that people weren't getting jobs off screen. And also as a vehicle for my own work and getting that made, and knowing that I just wanted to not just write stories. I don't just do stories about disability. I've got a film out at the moment that's very much about disability rights, but for me, it's also where disability isn't part of the plot and we're still seen on and off screen is, just, if not even more important, because we are part of everyday life and I want to see that. So for me, that driving ambition, and somewhat selfishly, I am sick of leaving the house and it being so inaccessible for my son. I mean, there are moments for me, but for my son, it is really, really inaccessible. Even just, a car park, not even, it's awful. A car will park over the dropped curb and we have to change our route because his chair won't go down normal curbs because of tip bars on the back. And it's, it's going out and people are parking in disabled bays without their blue badge. And it's all of this stuff and the inequities in healthcare. I do a lot of advocacy stuff within healthcare for people with learning disabilities and all of that stuff. I think film and TV has the power to really make people sit up and listen. If you look at what happened with Mr. Bates in the post office, how that made legislative change and, and policies, and it has the power to do that. And I just thought, I know that industry and I'm sick of how the world currently is around inaccessibility, and I'm going to use my voice and my company to try and make people think differently and hopefully contribute to some kind of change. So massive answer, sorry.
No, this is great. I think this is very helpful, and yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, one more question. Sarah, I'm looking at studying a broad degree, English Lit. And my question is, do you think formal education is worth it, even to have something to fall back on if film doesn't work for me? I'm 20 with limited higher level qualifications and finding it really hard to find jobs that don't require a degree.
I know people, just as many people who don't have the formal education but work in the industry, and then people who do have it. So it's a hard one to answer in terms of like getting in. There are other ways to get in. For me, having a degree did open things up for me in that I was able to then do the master's in the TV journalism, which then got me in that way. But that is, definitely not the only route. And I think it's worth, again, I keep bigging up screen skills, but I know they're like a one-stop shop and you can go there and it will say what, it does tell you the routes into each role and what they might be and what they're looking for. Yeah, I think it helps to have some kind of understanding, but that can be gained on set. It's a tricky one. I know how expensive as well education is, and it is something that, people I know who didn't do it could have a lot more money. They're not paying off their student loans. So yeah, sorry, I'm not answering that very well, but it's not something you have to have. But for me, I enjoyed it. I like studying. I like the academic structure. So for me and my brain, that worked really well. So there were positives in that respect as well for me.
Yeah, I'm just going to add on to that say I didn't use my first degree at all. That said, I started working really young because I had no idea what to do and I felt really lost. And I thought, oh, if I get lots of jobs, odd jobs here and there, I'll get to know more things. But one thing that in university, I met someone that is not even related to the arts, but his family was like a very creative family, and he used to go to film festivals all the time, and I had never been. So, because it wasn't the case that I knew that was a thing. So he took me the first time to the film festival, and he showed me all this stuff. He helped me get my first job, like in an art gallery. He was like, so there was this one person who was like, there's all these other things out there, which was, I feel like it was helpful just for him. That said, no one in my career in the creative industry has ever asked about my degree, because I started working and I had all these jobs and they were more interested in that. So it really depends on your needs, your skills, like not your skills, like your like goals as well. I don't think one way is particularly easier than the other. I think it's something that's quite personal. That's it, but just a caveat that I'm from Brazil, so it's different, I'm assuming. The what it's like here, but yeah, it's hard to tell someone what to do in those things. I think getting a job and a career in the creative industry is never easy for anyone. Like, there's no one path. I don't think that's like, this is the one path that will for sure be a success, because things change so fast that you don't really know. But I think it really is, like, there is something about being around a group of people as well, and having time to go explore all those things and have those connections that can be helpful. But it doesn't need to be in a university setting necessarily. I agree. So yeah, it's so hard to give this type of advice, because it's one of those things like, oh, it depends, and people hate that answer.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so many more questions. What someone asked, you mentioned sharing disclosing your script isn't a good idea. How do you know where and who to share it with?
I think in terms of don't share it unsolicited. So if you were to send a script to a production company saying you wanted, to look at it in the hopes that they would produce it, they generally aren't going to accept that. They want it to come via an agent. So in that respect, but I also get it's the whole idea sharing is a worry, because it's like, this is my idea. What if they love it, but they don't want me and they want to make something like it? But again, I think, like I said to Kia, no one's going to do it the same way as you. So that is your work. And there are ways to protect it if this is around protection of your script. So whenever I write something, before I send it off, I do it via the Writers Guild of America. I'm not a member, you don't have to be a member, but you can register a script with them, and you get like a code, a number that you can put on the front of the script to say it's WGA, Writers Guild America registered. So that it's like a copyright thing. You've got it's been saved, and it's, that script's in existence. But I think it's just being mindful as well, like in doing your research, if you are putting it into script competitions, like Coverfly is a very legitimate place that I mentioned. I would definitely say that's a great place for screenwriters. Yeah, I hope that answered the question, but I totally get needing to protect it.
For sure. What has been your favorite thing to direct so far?
Oh gosh, that's so hard. They're all my babies. I can't like choose one. It's different. Do you know what? It's more about I love like being on set and directing. It's like one of my favorite things ever. But for me, it's what comes from that and the people I've worked with. And I had a moment on one of my films where two people afterwards, a crew member and a cast member, were inspired by what we'd shot, that they went and wrote their own scripts. And for me, there's no better compliment and no better like outcome than that. You're inspiring other people to create and go and make, and they were both social impact pieces as well, which was just like, oh, this is amazing. We're getting people to go and speak like their experience and their truth out in the world. So I know that doesn't really answer like my favorite thing to direct, but that's probably my favorite thing to come out of what I've directed.
That's lovely. Emily says, I noticed that one of your company's belief is that working hours are too long in film, and I totally agree. What do you think is the way forward with that? And are you finding it challenging to fund shorter hours on your productions?
The way out of it is to just do shorter hours. And I really don't understand when big budget people who have huge budgets can't do it when we can with smaller budgets. It's an access need as well. It's so many things. It's a work-life balance. It's if you've got caring responsibilities or a parent, or you have access needs around disability. Everyone needs to put their budget together thinking with that in mind. We do a maximum 8 hours. We've done 9, but that's an hour lunch. That's like, we wouldn't go past that because I can't work longer than that. It's too long. And I've been there, I've done 15, 16-hour days plus on film sets, and no one feels good. No one creates their best work after these really, really long days. And they're so fatigued afterwards. So other countries do it. I think Sweden is one that just, they wouldn't work. They do a maximum of 8. So it can be done. There are models out there that show that it can be done. And it's, when applying for funding, it's part of your budget. You've incorporated it into that. I'm in discussions with someone at the moment about making their shooting schedule slightly longer for that reason. But there's a lot of, I don't know what it is. There's some great stuff being done. The Film and TV Charity are doing so. There's something called the Time Project, which I was part of a focus group on. And BEC2, the Union for Crew, are very much pushing towards this. So I do think it is going to become more of a thing, and hopefully like legally not allowed to work these extortionate hours.
Thanks so much, Sarah. This was really helpful. All right. Well, everyone, if you have one last question, this is your time. Otherwise, I'll just ask the final question to Sarah, which was about, sorry, let me just get it up here again. One sec. Yeah, that's a very basic question, but yeah, where should people look for funding for projects in film and TV, in your opinion? Even though we do talk a little bit about that, but yes, give us your insights.
It's super difficult. I think with TV, as a writer or a director, you're not going to be looking for funding that's coming from the broadcast and the production companies, or the broadcasters are going to fund that. In film, it obviously works very differently and in different ways. I mean, there are public funders such as the British Film Institute. They do, I think they've got another one opening up in April, one just closed, if I'm right, where they do different fundings. They fund so BFI Network, and they're around the region. So if you were to look for BFI Network in your area, and you can put in a script, it's a long application and a long process, but I think they go up to 25,000 for a short, and then they do a higher end short film one, which goes higher than that. They can fund up to. And they do feature film early development. So if you have something that's in the very early stages, they can give you some development money to keep writing it and create a pitch deck, things like that. So the BFI is probably the biggest one. There are Film 4 and BBC Film. They do fund shorts, but mostly fund features. And they both have direct emails on their websites. And that is one I said about not sending unsolicited scripts, but they do accept scripts from writers, I think. I hope I'm not wrong there, but check their website because all the details are on there. So they're the massive ones. And then it's just trying to be creative. I think I know someone that did a really good thing around product placements. They used a product in their films, which was quite noticeable. And that company, to have that it wasn't like it didn't detract from the story at all. It was part of the story. And, you know, as a viewer, you wouldn't necessarily know, oh, oh God, look at that product, that you can sometimes in certain reality shows. But they got money from that company to then help make the film. Sometimes charities do get involved. They don't have an awful lot of money, but they may help, whether it's with consulting or, you know, and just spreading the word about your film as well. Crowdfunding, oh, don't like it. I've tried it, not very successful, but some people are great at that. And so Indiegogo's Bark and Seed is a fairly new one, but it's growing traction. And GoFundMe, but that's more a charitable one. And yeah, it's just, you can only ask family and friends so much, so you don't really want to be doing that. As you get into feature, it's then like private equity investors and people who perhaps are interested, don't work in the industry, but are very interested in film and work in a line of work that ties in, especially around social impact stuff, with the work that you're trying to put on screen. But yeah, it's hard. I'm always looking for funding. So if you have any answers, then please send them my way, because
Thank
it
you
is
so
difficult.
much. No, I totally get it. Sarah, now we're gonna come to a close. Thank you again so much for doing this and for sharing your time and all your valuable insight with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was great.
Share this on our newsletter for everyone to recap, and we'll do a few, like, probably some edits as well for socials. But Sarah, please tell everyone how they can find you, how they can stay in touch with you, and all of those other good things, and how they can support you if you have anything coming up, anything that you'd like to share.
Great. So I am on Instagram, is my favorite platform that I use. So I'm Sarah Leigh Film on there, or Inclusivity Films. I have both, one for the company and one for myself. And then I'm really happy for people to reach out via email. So it's sarah@inclusivityfilms.co.uk.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah, honestly. And I'll share all those. And thank you, everyone, for coming. I hope this was useful. If you've enjoyed it and you would like to suggest more themes and more things that you would like to hear from and any other things, please get in touch. Our email is very easy. It's contact@iliketnetworking.uk. You'll have it on our socials or in newsletter, anywhere. It's very easy to find. And we always love to hear from people, because I'm just one person. I don't know what everyone else needs support with, but we hope to continue to create more transparent conversations. And again, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing so much with us.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for coming along.
Nice to hear about your company and your goals, and I hope everything goes well. And when you have anything to share that we want us to see or do or crowdfund, please let us know and we'll share that as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.
Bye.